Most people think that to win an argument, to lead a room, or to get what they want, they need to speak the loudest. We are taught from a young age that the squeaky wheel gets the grease and that noise is equivalent to power. But they're wrong. Dead wrong. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why the most dangerous person in the room isn't the one talking. It's the one who knows exactly when to stay silent. Silence isn't just quiet time or a lack of things to say. It is a tactical, psychological weapon. And if you learn how to use it, you will become untouchable in any social or professional environment. We live in a world that is terrified of a vacuum. Think about the last time you were in an elevator with a stranger, waiting for a coffee, or on a first date. When a silence stretches past 3 seconds, what happens? Your heart rate speeds up. Your palms might get a little sweaty. You feel an itch to say anything, even something completely meaningless, just to kill the quiet. Psychologically, humans associate silence with a lack of control or a sign of social rejection. When you are the one who refuses to fill that gap, you instantly shift the power dynamic. You aren't reacting, you are observing, while everyone else is busy leaking information, trying to justify their existence, or tripping over their words to stay relevant. You are gathering data. You are becoming a mystery. And in human psychology, mystery is always equated with high status and authority. Let's talk about real-world application in the places where it matters most. Imagine you're in a high-stakes meeting or a salary negotiation. They give you an offer, and it's lower than you expected. Most people would immediately start complaining, explaining why they deserve more, or showing their frustration through rapid-fire talking. Don't do that. Instead, look them directly in the eye. Keep your posture relaxed, and say absolutely nothing. Just wait. The silence gap creates a massive amount of internal pressure on the other person. To stop their own growing discomfort, they will often start negotiating against themselves. They might say, well, we could look at a signing bonus, or perhaps we can reevaluate the base pay in 6 months, or maybe we can add extra benefits. By doing nothing, you force them to blink first. Silence is the ultimate no, without ever having to raise your voice or be rude. There's a deep emotional layer to this as well that most people overlook. We often react to insults, passive-aggressive comments, or criticism with immediate heat. Someone says something that hurts, and our ego snaps back to protect us. But when you react instantly, you give that person complete control over your emotions. You've handed them the remote control to your peace of mind. When you meet an insult with 5 or 10 seconds of pure, unblinking silence, the insult dies in the air. It loses its gravity. By not responding, you make the other person look small, impulsive, and childishly desperate for a reaction. It shows that you are so grounded in your own reality that their words didn't even register as a threat to yourself. That is true strength. It's the difference between a king who doesn't need to explain himself and a commoner who is always defending his pride. But furthermore, most people don't actually listen. They just wait for their turn to talk. They are mentally rehearsing their next sentence while you are still speaking. If you want to be the most influential person in your social circle or your workplace, start practicing active silence. When someone talks to you, let them finish every single word. Then, instead of jumping in, wait 2 or 3 more seconds before you respond. This does 2 very powerful things. First, it ensures they have actually finished their thought. People share their most vulnerable, honest, or important information in the afterthought once they think you aren't going to interrupt them. Second, it shows that you are actually processing what they said rather than just waiting to hear your own voice. It makes your eventual words carry 10 times the weight because they weren't cheap or rushed. They were carefully chosen. In Western cultures, like the US, UK, and Australia, we are conditioned for the hustle. We are told to be assertive, loud, and constantly out there to be successful. Because everyone is following this same playbook, the market for noise is oversaturated and exhausting. When you choose the opposite path, you stand out like a beacon. You become the calm in the storm. People are naturally drawn to those who don't seem desperate for attention, because it signals that you already have what you need. Think about the most iconic figures in history, the most powerful CEOs, or even the most compelling characters in cinema. They don't ramble. They use words like precision instruments, not like a shotgun. They understand that every word you speak is a withdrawal from your bank of influence. If you speak too much, your currency devalues until it's worthless. If you speak rarely and with sharp intent, your stock price goes through the roof. So, how do you actually start building this habit? It isn't easy because our brains are wired to seek social approval through talking. Start small. The next time you're at dinner and there's a lull in the conversation, don't jump in with a boring story or a random fact. Let the silence sit there. Watch how others react. Some will get fidgety, some will look at their phones, and some will try to talk over the quiet. Just ignore the urge to help them. Notice how the power begins to shift toward you as you remain the only one comfortable in the void. When you stop talking, you start seeing. You see the micro-expressions people make when they're nervous. You hear the hidden tone behind their words. You see the truth that they are trying to hide with their noise. Silence isn't about being shy or being an introvert. It's about having so much internal strength that you don't feel the need to prove yourself to anyone. The loudest person in the room is almost always the most insecure. They are trying to fill the space because they are terrified of what people will think if they aren't constantly heard. They are chasing validation. The silent person is the one who is entirely comfortable with themselves. They don't need the room to acknowledge them because they already acknowledge themselves. The next time you feel the urge to defend yourself, to brag about an achievement, or to win a petty argument, just stop. Take a deep breath. Use your strongest weapon. Because in a world that can't stop talking, the person who masters silence is the person who ultimately wins the game. This isn't just about being quiet. It's about being the master of your own energy and the commander of every room you enter. Once you realize that silence is a choice, you realize that you never have to lose your power again.